Welcome back to another episode on the MLD Balls page. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about probably the scariest team in the Western Conference, the San Antonio Spurs. All right, so let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs led by legendary coach Greg Popovich and how they are probably my scariest team in the Western Conference. Looking at the standings, looking at the bracket from last year, they're the team that, like, besides the Grizzlies, like the Grizzlies, we know that they're going to be better than they were last year. They had a weird situation. The Spurs, on the other hand, it's like they could be a bad team, and it's like I guess we wouldn't be shocked, but they also could be a playoff team, and it would be like that's not crazy, you know? Like Victor Wembanyama is that good. He's that good. Victor is, oh my goodness, is if he can stay healthy for an 82 game season, because he was healthy last year, and we know the Spurs are going to be prioritizing that, they're gonna be a good team. They're gonna be a really good team because they are gonna be led by Chris Paul on the offensive end, which that's gonna be a huge upgrade from Jeremy Sohan going into the season. That's a crazy upgrade. And now Jeremy, this was the plan for the San Antonio Spurs the whole time. Now Jeremy Sohan at the power forward position, he's gonna have some experience playing point guard. You know what I mean? And he's going to be able to play off of Chris Paul better now. He's going to be able to see what Chris Paul sees a little bit better. And the Spurs' whole goal last season was to be a bad team. Like they knew they were going to do Jeremy Sohan there as an experiment, and it went kind of as they expected. And now he's at power forward, and he's going to be a good point forward. Um, Chris Paul is going to be a good mentor for him specifically, Sohan, and their draft pick, which we're going to talk about later, in Stephon Castle. He's going to be able to be there for Trey Jones too. Chris Paul is the point god, you know, like Chris Paul, he doesn't only come in and make everyone's job easier, he also teaches. So a great place for him to be alongside one of the best coaches of all time in Greg Popovich. So these guys, they have the staff and all the mentorship to be led in the right direction. This is going to be a team that we know they're going to make a lot of the right decisions, and they've been doing that so far. And next to those three players we've talked about, they have two shooters with Devin Vassell and Harrison Barnes. Devin Vassell is one of the best shooters in the league. And from those deep threes that like Trey Young, Steph Curry, and Damian Lillard be doing, I think Devin Vassell is in the tier right below those guys and those deep threes. Like, and LeBron James be mutting those things too. I ain't gonna lie, but yeah, those boys and Devin Vassell, I think, are the best deep 3-point shooters in the league. Harrison Barnes is a good 3-point shooter, good 3-and-D. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's the same type of player, you know, that y'all saw in the Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers finals runs. Harrison Barnes, same guy, just worse, you know, same nigga. Um, on the bench, we got Keldon Johnson, who Keldon Johnson is pretty decent, especially off the bench. He's gonna be a nice like spark plug, and he's a very exciting player. He get down to the basket, one of the better corner 3-point shooters in the league, so he could also play off ball. Defensively, he's, you know, not all that, but Keldon Johnson is cool, and off the bench, he's great. Zach Collins off the bench, you have a little stretch five. You could keep running 5-out lineups when ever Jeremy Sohan's not playing, because they have two centers that can shoot the ball, which is very coveted in the league. And yeah, that's a nice thing to have. Trey Jones is a nice playmaking guard. He's not all that to me, and that's why you got Stephon Castle in the draft. But Trey Jones as a backup guard, he's cool, especially behind Chris Paul. He's cool. He's cool. But he had too much responsibility last year, even though they were trying to share it amongst people. Trey Jones, when he was playing with Victor unleashed, and Trey Jones not even that good, bro. Like that's what really lets you know that Victor's gonna be real nice this year with Chris Paul because he got unleashed next to Trey Jones. Imagine what he's about to do with CP3. I don't care how old Chris Paul is, man. Um, Stephon Castle, though, like I was saying, a good player. We're gonna talk about him, but he's a two-way guard. Look like a Look like hey, we're gonna talk about Stephon Castle in a little bit. Julian Champagne's been on this team for a while. Malachi Brandon Malachi, yeah, whatever, however you say his last name. Solid player. He's gonna contribute in the rotation for this team. He's not bad. You got Sandro, you got Malachi Flynn, you got Blake Wesley, and you got Charles Bassey. You know, you just keep the reserves similar to how he always been. Chris Paul, Devin Vassell obviously going to be in the closing lineup. I would like to take Jeremy Sohan out of the game in closing situations. Yeah, he's nice, but first of all, give him some motivation to add a 3-point shot. And I think Stephon Castle, his 3-pointer, I think people just I know the percentages wasn't that good in college, but I think he'll be all right shooting the ball in the league, and putting him at small forward because he's not that bad defensively. So yeah, Jeremy Sohan's a better defender, of course, but I think Stephon Castle just gonna provide a lot on the offensive end for you, way more than Jeremy Sohan. And if you could put him in the closing lineups, that would be a real cool thing. But Jeremy Sohan's not a bad option either. But hey, keep an eye out for Stephon Castle. The rotation of obviously would be Paul and Trey at the point guard. You got Castle and Vassell at shooting guard. You got Barnes and Malachi at small forward. You got Keldon and Sohan at power forward. You got Victor and Collins at center. Dude, this Spurs team, like I told y'all, this is a scary team. Like look at the closing lineups they can have, the rotation. It all makes sense. And this team makes sense next to a guy who Victor was a top 20 player at the end of that season. You know, of that rookie season, Victor was a top 20 player. I'm Even if Victor doesn't get better, right? Let's say Victor is the same exact player he was at the end of the season. This team around him got better. This team around him fits more. This team around him is going to get better. Even if you want to say Victor doesn't get better, you're going to say the same thing about his teammates. I mean, Chris Paul, he's obviously, his health is going to be a big factor. I'm not going to lie. Chris Paul's health is going to be the biggest factor for this team because I'm relying a lot on Chris Paul, and he did miss half of the season for the Warriors because he got some health, and he is getting at that point of his age where that's going to be just something that comes along with him. But if Chris Paul stays healthy, man, this team is nice. This team is nice. They are coached well. They are fitting well next to each other. And they got a young guy who I think I had to find something so petty to give him a red flag. And it's just a consistent 3-point shot. I mean, when you watch the games, though, he's not a bad shooter. Like, I don't have a problem with Stephon Castle shooting shots. I mean, I guess percentage-wise, they don't fall in, but he'll get that figured out. NBA is 82 games, like college is like 32 games, something like that. I think within let's say 3 years, Stephon Castle is going to be a good shooter in the league at some point. Maybe at the level of a Shea as a 3-point shooter. I mean, that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. All right. He's a great defender, a great passer, a great playmaker. He's very smart on the court. And one thing I learned about him before I recorded this video is that he is a coach's son. Because when I'm watching him, he just has a feel for the game. Like, he knows how to move off the ball. He knows how to cut. He knows how to do everything a coach's son would do. And Stephon Castle does all of that. He plays within the game. The reason I compared him to a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and D'Angelo Russell is he plays at his own pace. Nobody's stopping him from playing at his pace. And it's a good and bad thing because in D'Angelo Russell's world, it's like nobody wants to build around the D'Angelo Russell if especially he's not playing defense. Like you could have D'Angelo Russell on the offensive end, great shooter, good playmaker. He plays at his own pace, and You know, you could play around that because of his 3-point shooting. And Stephon Castle, I think you'll be able to play around that because of his defense and his playmaking and his shooting in general is not bad to me. It's not bad at all. And he does all the stuff that D'Angelo Russell doesn't do off the ball with cutting, how good of a movement he is along the 3-point line. I like Stephon Castle a lot. I think he's very versatile. I think he could play shooting guard, small forward, and point guard. I do think him at shooting guard is my favorite spot. But him at point guard and small forward is not bad either. Stephon Castle is just, we're going to see what he lands, how he develops as a player, as a human, because hey, if he loses, 5 pounds, maybe we will just stick him at shooting guard. But if he gains if he becomes up to like 230, like he's a small forward, like we'll see what Stephon Castle does, whatever he feels is best for his game. I know that he wants to play point guard, but I think, I think he should just play ball and see whatever he lands at, because I think he can do anything. Like he can be whatever you want. 19 years old, he can be whatever you want, man. But I do think he reminds me of a Tony Allen, and Andre Iguodala might be my favorite comp for him because, like I said, I do think he's a shooting guard. I do think he could play make. I do think he has a good 3-pointer. Like a level of Andre. Would you consider Andre Iguodala a bad shooter? Nah. That's why I wouldn't really consider Stephon Castle a bad shooter. Like him being a bad 3-point shooter, I disagree with. But if he is a bad 3-point shooter and I'm just wrong about that, maybe he could be a Tony Allen or Ben Simmons. But I do think Stephon Castle is a good shooter. I do think all the defensive stuff about Stephon Castle is right. I seen a stat when I was watching UConn before I recorded this. I was watching UConn versus Kentucky, and Stephon Castle won like the most player of the weeks. It was him, Allen Iverson, bro. Just the names that he was on in college basketball. I did not know Stephon Castle was doing that good in college basketball. I did not know he was the man like that, because Allen Iverson is one of the greatest college basketball players ever out of Georgetown. So it was like Shaq, AI, and like Carmelo Anthony. And then Stephon Castle was number one in player of the week, something like that. Crazy stat. Shows you how well Stephon Castle just played throughout the season. And he also has a game that is very consistent. You always know where he's going to be because he's always doing the right thing. Sometimes you can just look at, hey, what should this guy be doing? Because that's where he's going to be. That's what Stephon Castle is. Always doing what he should be on the court, and great player. I do think that the Spurs are a very scary team that y'all need to watch out for. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Currently at 182 subscribers. So if you could like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be highly appreciated. Thank you everybody, and have a nice day. God bless.